So we are currently in the depths of the offseason. I wanted to talk about every single draft pick before we do get into the 2027 season. I know it probably is a little bit late to talk about this now because the Summer League hype has kind of died off, but I do want to give my projections for every single first round draft pick and then also some of the second round picks of the year as well, and what we could maybe expect from each player in a separate video every day until the season does begin, unless some other big news comes up and takes up that daily slot. But I wanted to start, of course, with AJ Dybantsa, the number one pick from the Washington Wizards. And AJ Dybantsa is a very intriguing prospect because he is coming into a very young team. Don't get me wrong. This is a team that was in the middle of a rebuild. One could argue they're fast-tracking the end of the rebuild at last year when they made some pretty good moves, in my opinion, in getting Anthony Davis for a pretty cheap sort of trade. You've got Trae Young for borderline salary dump. You know, you didn't have to give up much for him, and I know you had to pay him a lot of money, and he's in one of the worst contracts in the league right now. But still, I think you can look at this team and you can have a pretty bullish opinion of them, which I do have. I genuinely believe that we are going to see the Washington Wizards in the playoffs next year. That is what AJ Dybantsa wants to bring to this team in his rookie season, and I think that he's going to be able to do it because this is a player coming into a young team, don't get me wrong, but with Trae Young and with Anthony Davis, and if those two can be healthy, and that's a big if, I do understand, and they work together well, because they didn't play together, I don't believe, at all last season, because Anthony Davis got traded and then sat instead of playing in the Wizards jersey. I think that we can see this be a competitive team. Now, the Eastern Conference is going to be a very difficult team, I think, to make the playoffs in, because that is just a pretty competitive conference. You know, you can think about it now, the Eastern Conference have really sort of caught up to the West. Now, the two juggernauts of the championship, I do understand the Knicks did win, are probably the Spurs and the Thunder still. But you've got the Knicks, who were the championships last year. You've got the Pistons. Maybe they lose Duran, but still the Pistons have been competitive for a couple of years, had a fantastic regular season last year. You've got the Celtics, who are going to be competitive. They've got Paul George. The 76ers, you know, they had a massive offseason, brought in LeBron James, traded for Jaylen Brown for what feels like a pretty good deal considering it was Paul George and a couple of picks, and Paul George's contract isn't viewed with a lot of happiness. And then, of course, you've still got the Cavaliers, who could still be competitive with James Harden, even if Harden does fall off a little bit in the playoffs. There's still a lot of teams that you're going to have to compete with to make it into those positions. And you've even got like the Utah Jazz are going to be a little bit more competitive this year as well, even though they might be in the West. And I just embarrassed myself live on camera, but it's all right. We're going to continue anyway. So yeah, that's the thing. He is going to be coming into a young team. You know, you got Bilal Coulibaly, Keyshawn George had some very big moments last year. Cam Whitmore comes off the bench, but I'm not super high on Cam Whitmore, to be honest with you. But you're going to be partnering him up with Alex Sarr, who's going to be playing that center position. I made a video on the Wizards solo, just talking about the Wizards and how having Sarr at the center position is going to be very good, because now Anthony Davis is going to play power forward. Anthony Davis prefers to play power forward. Will Riley had a good summer league. He's going to be coming off the bench as well. Potentially might even just play in the G League. I don't know, but there's some good teams, some good players in this young core still, and you've just added Trae Young and Anthony Davis, and I think that it's very telling on what AJ Dybantsa did say about what he wants to bring to this team in his rookie season. He wants to bring the Wizards back to the playoffs, and I think that it's a very fair expectation to have when you do see that that's what he wants to do. He wants to make it to the playoffs. He thinks Rookie of the Year could come. Rising stars will come, all the good stuff. Your main goal is to make the playoffs, and I like that. You know, I like that he's got a team goal. He wants to bring them to the playoffs, and, you know, before we get into discussing what we can expect maybe from AJ Dybantsa in the league, I've got to shout out the sponsor, of course, W.GG. That might be the first time I've said them properly. If you use the code ARTEM10, you do get 10% off any purchase with W.GG. W.GG, of course, is a powdered sports drink, and they do ship internationally. They ship to me in New Zealand. It's fantastic, and it's a pretty good wheat product there. I use it every single day. Let's now close that, and let's talk about AJ Dybantsa. So AJ Dybantsa, this is what I worry about a little bit with him, is Trae Young and Anthony Davis are going to run the show a lot together. Trae Young is gonna be having a lot of ball handling duties, and maybe AJ Dybantsa is not necessarily going to get that many ball handling duties, because if you look at AJ here, obviously we're looking at highlights from just 1, maybe 2 games. It really is a lot of drives, it is a lot of ball handling, it's a lot of scoring in the paint, it's a lot of physicality, which I think you do like to see out of him, but he was not very efficient from the 3, and I have seen that some people are just truly expecting that AJ Dybantsa's role in his rookie year, given the fact that he's going to be playing alongside Trae Young and Anthony Davis, who are going to be running that show on the offense, obviously, is they're just going to stick AJ Dybantsa in the corner and have him be a 3-point shooter, which is not going to be good for AJ. You know, I understand maybe you could just say, oh, he's going to develop the 3-point shot by doing that, but this is someone that could be a superstar player. This is someone that people are saying could be an all-NBA player. This is someone with such high upside. He's one of the best prospects that we've seen in many years, and I know that's pretty hard to justify because we had Victor Wembanyama not that long ago, but this is a guy that would have gone number 1 over Sachet easily. This is a guy that you know, people were saying would have been a pretty close consideration with Cooper Flagg, which is unreal. So that's what level of prospect we have here in AJ Dybantsa. So you want to develop him. You want to give him some ball handling duties. Maybe you want to give him time on the court without Trae Young on there, and you do want him to maybe handle the ball a little bit more than maybe you would with another forward rookie. But you can just see a little bit of playmaking out of him there. But you know, that's the thing about AJ Dybantsa, is he is going to need the ball, I think, in his hands, and is Trae Young going to give that up for him? You know, Trae Young, he does, you know, play his own system. That's sort of been the struggle with Trae Young's career, is you can't really just stick Trae Young in a system. I know it's a little bit of a meme at this point, but still, nonetheless, you know, Trae Young is his own system, really, is his own sort of hub of offense and not really playing much defense. So that's going to be another test for AJ, of course, because AJ Dybantsa's defense wasn't necessarily something that people were describing as a big sort of thing for him. But I'm quite interested to see how he does look in the league, and I think that on the Wizards, this is a team that's going to be both young and competitive. So that's 2 things that are going to be very good, and I would even argue on top of that as well that he's not actually going to have a great deal of pressure on him either, you know, and I know that might sound crazy because I'm putting the pressure on him to get the team into the playoffs, but I always look at Cam Boozer, and I'll talk about Cam Boozer in a couple of days' time, and I almost think that maybe Cam Boozer might have more pressure on him than Dybantsa, because they're building the entire Grizzlies team around Boozer. That's a whole young squad that they've got building around him. I feel like with AJ Dybantsa, he's coming into a team that's already completed a rebuild and is now ready to compete, and I think that he can be another little tool that's going to help them compete. So let me know what you think about that in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.